Hooah! Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
Oz is in the middle, fam. He's going to change it right now. I didn't catch that
Okay.
K. The way it was structured, I freaking missed it. But Oz is going to change the thumbnail, guys, for us right now and get that spelled properly. I couldn't even see that until you. Ah, you must be getting better at Russian, fam.
I absolutely am getting better, fam.
How do you say yes in Russian?
Da.
Da. All right, guys. Should you share the Convo Couch? Da. Should you watch the
Da.
Convo Couch? Da.
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 Da. Da. Is the Rumble link
Fam.
up? I don't see it.
What's that?
Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so the thumbnails have to be changed on all of them.
Yep. I
Yep.
know. I'm very aware of that. Did you get
Okay.
the Rumble one yet, or should I send it to you right now?
No, I found it.
You found it. Okay, so the Rumble one's there. We got about 26 people hanging on out. Guys, do us a favor, share. What's going on, crazy peeps? We got about 4 premium members hanging out on on the Rockfin, guys. Share that link too as well. If you are a premium subscriber, it does help us out over here. So go ahead and share that out. Watch if you can. And the YouTube suppression family that nobody ever talks about anymore, 50, where we would get 50 in the first 10 seconds of the thing. They're not sharing at all. And it's kind of weird because we're still consistently growing past, even with the suppression, some of the other people who have half the subscribers but get twice as many people watching their show. So I don't know. I'm sure people will say, "Well, you guys," but nobody ever talks about what YouTube got away with, fam. Nobody talks about it at all, and it really, really does suck. They freaking just kneecap to monetize people, took away their livelihoods, and no, they didn't have to answer to anything. There's no YouTube files like there's a Twitter files. I'd take fucking screenshots at this point, man. I really would. I'd take anything to see what YouTube was doing. Anything. Because I know they were really up to no good. But what are you going to do? All right.
Yeah, I mean, they are part of the machine, so it's not going to change, unfortunately. But guys, so we have a show to go over some of the stuff that happened over the weekend because it's important. Although I do think people are kind of making this the most important. There's still a lot to be done. This is not necessarily. I think it is a defining moment with Bakhmut or Artyomosk, as Russians call it. So don't. It's not Bakhmut anymore. It's done. It's Artyomosk because now it's under full Russian control. But it's not. I mean, they're predicting this is going to go on at least 1.5 to 2 years more just to get the regions that they have in mind of getting. And now everything keeps moving west. So that's the reality. That's what's going to happen. This isn't going to be over this year or the next. Likely, it's going to go into um, beyond 2024. It seems.
Mm-hmm.
But let's start off by talking about what that means for you in the United States. What that means for Americans, because the Biden administration has decided they're also going to continue giving billions more to Ukraine. But also, while they do that, in those billions are going to be the F-16 fighter jets, right, fam?
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody really believes off the bat that, what is it, Monkfish and Juice were the two Ukrainian pilots that they sent in the beginning of the war there to kind of lobby. It was right before Top Gun came on out, so I think it was like appropriate time. But nobody really believes there's going to be Ukrainian fighters fighting these F-16s if they even get to them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this often, the question I often ask myself is it going to be like what Mark Sloboda said on the show it would be like, what he's talking about, that this is going to be a long, drawn-out process for years and years to come, where they're going to be just supplying weapons to Ukraine, and whatever troops they can get in there, whether they be NATO troops or mercenaries from somewhere else, to continue the fighting, right? when I see stuff like this, when it says Russia says, the West providing F-16s to Ukraine is a colossal risk, and talking about the severity of it, it makes me think that Mark is on point, and I'm a little bit off because I thought, after Bakhmut was taken, I'm like, okay. And we're going to talk about the significance of Bakhmut and what it means, because I don't think people really understand what's going on with Bakhmut, fam, which we shouldn't even call it Bakhmut anymore, right? So, but that being said, these are the things that make me think that, Mark is right. And by the way, we have your boy Joe Biden over here if you want to hear what he has. You ready, fam?
Yeah, sure. I'm so excited.
In my private meeting with President Zelensky after the G7 meeting and with his staff, I told him the United States, together with our allies and partners, is going to begin training Ukrainian pilots in fourth-generation fighter aircraft, including F-16s, to strengthen Ukraine's Air Force as part of a long-term commitment to Ukraine's ability to defend itself.
So there you have it, fam. The war must go on, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. When could they realistically have Ukrainian pilots ready to fight and defend their own airspace and air force? Maybe 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time because they have to be trained to fly that. It's not like they know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like this isn't it's going to take a long time. So while they keep talking about these F-16 fighter jets and all of this crap, and they're making it out to be this Bakhmut, when we'll talk about the media spin, right? Bakhmut was so important, then it wasn't. Now it's just meaningless. Bakhmut is important, but it's also, again, it's an important investment for Russia, but it's hardly, we're still in the middle of a conflict that's going to last. And hopefully it doesn't last as long as the Afghan war, but it seems like this is going to last a long time, longer than what people expected it to. And the F-16s are just being paraded around by the West as this major thing that's supposedly going to help hand Ukraine a victory, but it's all facade because they don't know how to use them. They need to be trained on them. They have to get the weapons. It's a whole thing. And then on top of that, Ukraine doesn't have the manpower to really continue doing this, right? This is why Zelensky went around begging for more money, because they literally need all the help they can get. And even with all of that, even if tomorrow they were trained, this conflict is unwinnable for Ukraine at this point. So it's all just PR to make it look like Ukraine has a fighting chance with these fighter jets.
It's a money laundering scheme. It's been for a while. The FTX thing should have really broke it open. The fact that people aren't just at the gates charging, saying enough is enough, that you keep spending money. How about that whole story, fam, where the Pentagon found they made a clerical error of sorts, and they found an extra $3 billion. Oh my God, we found it to give to fucking Ukraine. It was like, we found money under the cushions over here. Let's give it to Ukraine. And this comes from an announcement he made in Japan, right? So Zelensky, after stopping at the Arab League in Saudi Arabia, and thank you, I'm here for Saudi Arabia, he goes running over to Japan and starts begging over there. And that's when they make this announcement. I get nauseous when I see the pictures of Zelensky and Rishi Sunak. It really is disgusting. Vanessa Beeley.
Yeah, so on top of the F-16s, Biden is set to announce more billions and billions added. Well, in total, it's billions, but there's a new $375 million military aid package. They have so many of these 300 and something military aid packages for Ukraine that what ends up happening is it's I think I get lost at where we're at, but we're at the tune of billions and billions of dollars already, at least over 3, 4, 5 billion that we're at, that we have given to Ukraine. So and if Vanessa points out, this is of course while the people in the United States are going through inflation, right? She says President Joe Biden is set to announce a new $375 million aid package for Ukraine after Zelensky brought begging bowl to G7. Meanwhile, Americans' standards of living, healthcare, etc., is in free fall. And hashtag military industrial complex governance. I mean, that's a reality. I mean, you tell me how things are back at home, like it's how great things are, right? And a lot of people want to blame it only on Joe Biden. Obviously, it's not just Joe Biden. It's not just the Democrats. Republicans set it up. And the other administration, the Obama administration before that, set it up as well. This has been a long time coming. But the reality is, right now, Joe Biden is president, and a lot of it that falls on Joe Biden. Trump saying he wouldn't have done this. You know, there's that whole situation going on. There's the election coming up, and Joe Biden is highly unpopular. The Democratic Party has said that they are not doing any sort of debates. That they're not going to basically have. They're not basically going to have a primary. And so this is kind of interesting that they're doing this, because it seems to me that they think that no matter what, the American public is going to have to accept the decisions being made by the quote unquote deep state, by the military industrial complex, the surveillance state, and the American people have no say. You just, they found $3 billion under the cushions for Ukraine, but they can't find anything for the American people. And that just shows you how we're a country, how it treats its poorest citizens, shows you, where they're at in society. It's just going backwards.
The hypocrisy just runs deep, right? And I don't know what's going to wake people up to go, enough of this bullshit. Because every single day it seems like they throw more and more mud in our face, fam, every single time. Like you said, they don't give a damn what the American people are experiencing, how, inflation's going through the roof, how the homeless number keeps rising, how our children are addicted to all different types of drugs. And now we have this fentanyl problem going in, and they even want to blame, the other side wants to blame, the cartels. I mean, I saw somebody put up today that they're all for Donald Trump using the military to go into these other countries to go after the cartels. I mean, what could go wrong, fam? So, I mean, we are in a free fall, and it doesn't seem like we have much representation on either side. So it's going to be an interesting situation to see what continues to happen until Americans put their foot down. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're all on the same page. It seems like there's a big part of our country still doesn't pay attention to what's going on in foreign policy. And I'm just talking about the normies, right? Like, they don't I heard, are we still in Ukraine? Are we still giving them money? Yeah, we're still giving them money. In fact, we're giving them F-16s. But that milk that you're ringing up over there is $9 for that gallon. Have fun. Fam, remember when back in the days when, outlets like Vice or representatives like John Conyers can talk about, the significance and how bad it could be about, arming fucking Nazis in Ukraine. Wow, check this out. This is 2016.
The amendments around these important considerations. And this amendment that I proposed this evening limits arms training and other assistance to the neo-Nazi Ukrainian militia, the Azov Battalion. Foreign Policy magazine has characterized the 1,000-man Azov Battalion as, quote, openly neo-Nazi, end quotation, and, quote, fascist. Numerous other news organizations, including the New York Times, The Guardian, the Associated Press, have corroborated the dominance of white supremacist and anti-Semitic views within the group. Yet, Ukraine's interior minister recently announced the Azov Battalion will be among the units to receive training and arms from Western allies, including the United States. Azov's founder, Andrei Beletsky, organized the neo-Nazi group, the Social National Assembly, in 2008. Azov men used neo-Nazi symbolism on their banner. These groups run counter to American values, and once the fighting ends, they pose a significant threat to the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian people. And as we've seen many times, most notably within the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, these groups will not lay down their arms once the conflict is over. They'll turn their arms against their own people in order to enforce their hateful views. I urge support of our amendment and make it U.S. law that we will not equip this dangerous neo-Nazi militia. I'll yield to the
I think I speak for the
gentleman
committee
from
in suggesting that we accept the gentleman's amendment and appreciate the fact that he wants to exercise care, as we do on the committee, to make sure whoever is trained is someone who is, if you would, a person of good intent, as opposed to someone who is not. So appreciate the gentleman's concern and for offering the amendment.
I thank the gentleman, and I would yield.
Amendment, thank you.
I thank the gentleman from New Jersey. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Michigan. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is adopted.
What happened, fam? Where did it come from? We got to stop arming these groups like the Mujahideen, which eventually turned into split up to other groups, the ISIS and Al Qaeda. You know, this is where it all started, right? I mean, where does it end? Where does it start? When did we become the domestic terrorists? We became the bad guys. And somewhere along the line, it's okay to arm Nazis. It's okay to arm some of the most radical groups out there. When, you know, even John Conyers in his speech, and I don't know if his staffer wrote it for him, but he even said, it's like once the fighting is over, right? And they're saying, you know, they probably were trying to convince Congress that, hey, they're separatists in East Ukraine. We can't let them fall to Russia. So let's arm them. But when the fighting's over there, what's going to happen with the Azov battalion? What are they going to do with their weapons? They armed the Azov battalion because they knew that they would turn their weapons on their citizens immediately, that they were the only group that would do so. That's why America has a lot of experiences with arming the most radical groups, because the things they are asking these groups to do are inhumane and disgusting and very, very, very not in the interest of their own country, but in the interest of the United States empire.
Yeah, and while he was saying that, of course, we know that was after the United States interfered via the Euromaidan and ousted the democratically elected leader of Ukraine. So that was an attempt to stop a mess that was already created by the United States as well. Mm-hmm. So again, it's just more, you know, you can't do that, because what started this whole thing was the U.S. interference. Obviously, there were Nazis there, but I think we would have a very different situation if they weren't empowered and armed and funded by the United States. And now, of course, they're being funded by NATO and the United States. So this is why Zelensky can go around and ask for, you know, all these weapons and money, because it's now under we're helping the Ukrainian people out. We're helping the Ukrainian people achieve freedom, because the Nazi element didn't quite go so well a few years ago. So there was a reframing of this whole situation, which is all they're doing now. And we knew that they were going to reframe everything regarding Bakhmut or Artyomosk as well.
Yeah, I forgot to read the Super Ray's last show, so I won't forget this time. There is none in there yet. There's no money in the bank from the Rumble yet, and we're still demonetized on YouTube. Go figure. I don't know for what reason. They just demonetized us one day, and how can they do that shit? We monetize you one day, you have a lifetime ban for saying whatever. We can't even tell you what it is. Nothing specifically. I mean, come on, that's fascism. That's fascism. But let's get to the next topic, fam, because this is the most important thing. I think a lot of your insight, since you're in the region, you can give us a little yes or no's to what's going on. I thought that David Sachs had one of the best ones out there. He listed his sources, but he put up 4 reasons. What's the significance of Bakhmut, right? And that's the most important thing, because a lot of people were saying, it's just one war, it's one place. Can't they fight somewhere else? Well, let's take a look at these
I mean,
reasons.
they will, but
I mean, of course they will, but this Bakhmut, which is now called what, fam?
Artyomosk.
God bless you, is now under the hands of Russia. Here's what the mainstream media should be telling you about Bakhmut, but they're not. Number one, this is regional transport and a logistics hub. Bakhmut gives Russia access to key roads and rail. It places larger cities of Kramatorsk and Sloveniansk.
Kramatorsk and
How do you say it?
Slavyansk.
Thank you. Within
Kramatorsk
easy range
and
of
Slavyansk.
Russian artillery. Hence, Zelensky's earlier comment that the loss of Bakhmut would give the Russians an open road to the rest of Donetsk. Unique defensive fortifications, fam. Bakhmut's network of subterranean salt mines and tunnels, which are 100 miles plus, contributed to its defensibility. It also provided an underground complex to stockpile weapons, munitions, and equipment. Ukraine has other lines of defense, but Bakhmut may have been unique. The third one, Fortress Bakhmut. Bakhmut became a rallying cry for the Ukrainian resistance. Zelensky called it the fortress of morale, fam, and gave a Bakhmut flag to Congress. How do you feel if that's hanging on your wall there, Nancy Pelosi? Yeah, Bakhmut now belongs to Russia. Nice flag. The fight for Bakhmut will change the trajectory of our war for independence and freedom, he said. And the fourth one is Operation Meat Grinder. Russia may have used Bakhmut as a trap to lure in Ukrainian troops and generals, causing them massive casualties and imperiling them, the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Prigozhin videos claim the Russians were running out of ammo, which were eagerly reported by mainstream media. It may have been part of a trap. And then he lists all his sources down below: Reuters, BBC, and Kathleen Tyson. Fam, what are your thoughts about what David Sachs put up over here? Is that pretty accurate?
Everything we have said before on Bakhmut, it's a key city that is really important in terms of logistics, in terms of military transport, in terms of the transport of personnel. Everything he listed there in regards to that is absolutely true. I mean, that's why it was so important. And that's why the West initially talked about how vital and key winning this was for Ukraine. So that's why they've shifted now to it's not important, but it is important. It's important logistically, militarily. And then the last one too, I was going to expand later on in this RT article as well, where the Operation Meat Grinder, the whole point was to basically exhaust Ukrainians' forces by making them focus only on Bakhmut, having the majority of their defense go to Bakhmut, while Russia is able to also go elsewhere. And also mentioning the fact that Prigozhin saying that he was running out of munitions might have been a trap. I do agree. We were talking about that before, if you guys recall, that it might have been a trap. He seemed to be, exaggerating this and that. And immediately after, he said he got the munitions he wanted. And then so on and so forth. The rest is history. They continued. Now everything's going to move west. They're going to encounter Slavyansk. And eventually, they're going to get to these outer regions. But Bakhmut is basically the key to that. The tunnels, as he mentioned, would provide great defense. And now that all belongs to Russia. And so that is going to give Russia the advantage of having this central area relative to now the West, where they will continue advancing. So it is really important. It is really essential. It is a turning point. And as far as morale goes, Ukraine might be doing all sorts of PR to pretending that this isn't important, that this isn't a big deal. They are putting out video after video saying, oh, we have, the southernmost western part of Bakhmut. We're still there. So they keep doing this whole spin with the help of Western media. And it's just not the case. I mean, this is clearly now Russia. If anything, Russia took too long by some accounts to capture Bakhmut. They could have captured it much sooner. They could have, in the sense of if they had used more of their military. Because remember, as we've discussed on the show before, Russia has not used the vast majority of their army. Like they've only used a very small percentage of it. They also have refused to destroy cities. If you look at Mariupol, which is being rebuilt right now, there are people that are living there that are going to, the ocean. They're enjoying summer. It's not a destroyed city. If you look at the parts of Ukraine that are, that's what they didn't want to happen to these regions. And so that is one reason they say that this is why they took a while. But it wasn't going to be a easy fight. I think both Russia and Ukraine learned early on that this was going to take some time, that this wasn't going to be we're going to come in and we're going to capture on either end, right? And we're just going to take this city, this fortress, and go. And it wasn't like that for Russia. And I think also they may have predicted that they could have taken this sooner, but it took a little bit longer. But it's like 7 months in since they started the offensive.
It's almost like in the beginning when I think a lot of times and people were like, oh, they couldn't take Kiev. They went into Kiev, but they couldn't take it. I'm like, no, I think they did some early threatening of Kiev. So therefore, a lot of the Ukrainian troops had to stay in Kiev. They couldn't go fight elsewhere. So the Russians will pull moves like this. I think they've displayed it before. So you never know what they're up to as far as if it was a trap or if it wasn't a trap. But I had a hard time believing that they were running low on ammunition, fam. What do we got here?
Okay, so another thing that Ukraine is really not wanting people to talk about is their commander-in-chief of the armed forces, Valery Zaluzhny, who has appeared on Ukrainian television looking quite not as good as he did. So the picture on the right is what he looked like before in the beginning, and then this is what he looked like recently. So he seems to have aged. He seems there are reports that he is in the hospital right now, going through some sort of. He's going to go through some sort of operation, and he was injured in Dnipropetrovsk. So it seems like their commander-in-chief is down. They lost Bahkmut / Artyomosk. That's the name. Russians gave to the region, and now it's going to be back to that, which will be a lot harder for everyone to say, but you'll get it eventually. It took me a minute as well, so don't feel bad.
So this is a great one right here too, fam. I don't know if you saw this from Wyatt. This is awesome. I'll click on them. I'll let you go over them. Good.
Right. So this is what I was talking about, the shift in the media spin. So on October 20th, 2022, CNN pretty much said about Bakhmut, the significance of the city cannot be overstressed. And they specifically tell you themselves, right? Bakhmut lies at the fork that points towards two other strategic towns in the Donetsk region, Konstantinivka to the southwest and Kramatorsk and Slavyansk to the northwest. It seems to me they're going to be going towards Kramatorsk and Slavyansk, especially Slavyansk. And all three are key to Putin's total control of the region. Notice how they frame that. But they did admit that this was a key city. The next one, while Bakhmut, and this is in March of 2023, while Bakhmut's strategic importance should not be overstated, its capture could still carry a very welcome symbolic impact for Russian President Vladimir Putin. So they shifted to symbolic, right? So when Russian troops took the town of Soledar in mid-January, it marked a first gain in the Donbass for months. 6 weeks on, the capture of Bakhmut would represent the completion of the next step. So, okay. Then it's like the city sits towards the northeast of the Donetsk. This is March 26th as well, of the region, about 13 miles from the Luhansk region, and has been a target of Russian forces. Since last summer, the city has been the stone's throw from the front lines. So its capture would represent a long sought after success for Moscow's forces and bring some limited strategic value. Limited strategic value, but still strategic value. May 20th, 2023. If confirmed, Russia's Bakhmut capture would mark the country's first gain in months, but the city's symbolism always outweighed its strategic importance. Russian forces, bolstered by members of the Wagner mercenary group, have taken heavy losses trying to capture the city. So notice how they spin it. They literally pretty much outright, in the end, start saying the complete opposite of what they said in the beginning. The complete and total opposite. So you have them contradicting themselves literally in an effort to create this narrative that everything's still fine with Ukraine, when more and more people are seeing that that's not the case. Even people that, haven't been paying attention are seeing that this is just a lost cause for Ukraine at this point, and they're seeing the media spin on it, because I mean, it's a joke at this point. Is it important? Is it not important? Are Russians losing, or are they so terrible that they're trying to take over the entire world? Like, which is it? They can't stick to a single. They keep contradicting themselves and can't stick to one track, because they go wherever is needed to make this narrative creation that Ukraine is still a successful, operation, and that Ukraine will win. And that's just complete and total BS.
Fam, let's get to the next part of this over here. I think you'll like this. This is the Wagner Group on the ground. Let's take a look. This here.
Сегодня пополудни в 12 часов полностью был взят Бахмут. Последний участок так называемой многоэтажки самолета. Я хочу сказать спасибо российскому народу, который нас поддерживает. Спасибо тем погибшим парням, которые погибли на этой войне. И военные, и наши бойцы ЧВК «Вагнер». Спасибо тем, кто сейчас с нами в строю. Те, кто не сумел продолжить контракт, и те, кто придут и будут воевать вместе с нами в будущем. Спасибо генералу Суровикину и генералу Мезенцеву, которые дали нам возможность провести эту тяжелую операцию. И спасибо Владимиру Владимировичу Путину, что дал нам эту возможность и высокую честь защищать свою родину.
So, clearly a very important battle for the Russians in this whole entire operation, in this whole entire conflict. Again, it's still going to continue, though. They're going to continue on west. And again, another thing that was reiterated was that there wasn't going to be any sort of negotiation. Oh, and I forgot to put that in there from Lula. There wasn't going to be any sort of negotiation with Ukraine as long as they continue receiving weapons from the West, as long as they continue attacking civilians. And Russia says that there's not going to be any sort of negotiation. And Lula most recently said that that the way that Zelensky wants a sort of peace deal, he said, is basically means a surrender from Russia, and that's just not feasible. Yeah. So Lula came out and said that, and that is entirely true. That's exactly what we've been saying all along. It's just complete fantasy to think that Russia's just going to surrender when they have the upper hand right now.
Here's what Ritter says Russia will be doing in the near future.
Well, I don't believe there's going to be a lull in the fighting. The capture of Bakhmut is a tremendous victory for Russia, for Wagner. And it's up to Russia now to exploit this success. The Ukrainians have accumulated forces sufficient for a concerted counterattack, but that counterattack is doomed to fail. I believe it's up to Russia to keep the pressure up. A lull would be in the best interest of Ukraine, but only Russia can dictate the course of action. They've won a great victory. Hopefully they'll recognize that they need to continue to put the pressure on Ukraine throughout this summer. Well, I don't believe there's going to be a lull in the fighting.
Yeah, I do think that what he's talking about maybe is because Yevgeny Prigozhin the chief of Wagner said that they are going to rest. And so basically what he said did happen as far as like the transfer of Bakhmut to the Russian troops. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't going to be any sort of continued counteroffensive. I think you are going to see Russia take advantage of this and continue fighting. I don't see them letting up in any way, shape, or form. But I do think maybe Wagner might focus on other cities now that they don't need to be there anymore. So that's I believe that's an accurate assessment as well from Scott.
Well, there's a big issue, fam, is that Zelensky won't admit that the Russians are. Zelensky is now claiming that what you see with your own eyes is not real, and Russia does not control the strategic city of Bakhmut. But also, his military leaders are admitting that Ukraine only controls a couple of buildings in Bakhmut.
Now our people are accomplishing a very important mission. They are now in Bakhmut. I will not share where exactly, but it witnesses that Bakhmut is not occupied by Russian Federation as of today. There are no 2 or 3 interpretations of those words.
Не відповідає дійсності. Наші підрозділи утримують ряд будівель і мають ряд фортифікаційних там споруд на південно-західній частині міста. І не дивлячись на всі їхні такі голосні заяви, ми тихо, але дуже ефективно робимо свою роботу. Плюс все те, що зробили герої Бахмуту для знищення цього групування, потім сторицею віддасться, коли наші підрозділи, які готувалися за кордоном і в Україні, набудуть бойових спроможностей і виконують цього здеморалізованого і з вибитим бойовим потенціалом ворога за межі нашої країни. У нас завжди була можливість доставляти туди все необхідне, навіть найкритичніші дні, прокладати додаткові шляхи сполучення і забирати звідти поранених. Така ситуація залишається і зараз. Відхід з міста чи його оборона, це буде вирішуватися тільки з врахуванням доцільності і збереження своїх сил засобів. Можливі різні варіанти, але це тільки на розгляд командування, яке за всю більше ніж рік війни показало, що воно...
Zelensky used his visit to Hiroshima, which was obliterated by a World War II atomic bomb, to draw comparisons to the devastated city of Bakhmut. There is absolutely nothing left alive. All the buildings are destroyed, he said. It is simply absolute, total destruction. Zelensky was quick to deny Kremlin claims that Bakhmut had been taken by its forces, but peering through the dense fog of war makes it hard to determine if the fighting in one of the longest and bloodiest battles in this conflict really has come to an end. Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group staked their claim to the city, and the leader of the paramilitary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, posted this video.
Бахмутская мясорубка.
Okay, so fam, I don't know if you saw how they contradict themselves and each other, because Zelensky's like, nothing is left, nothing remains. But also, we have some buildings, right?
We have control of the city,
we have control of some buildings, but there's nothing left. And comparing it to Hiroshima, he got so much pushback for that, because who bombed Hiroshima? And like, it's just he's clueless to make that comparison. And those were nuclear bombs, first of all. So it's just he shouldn't open his mouth. But yeah, that was really bad comparison.
Here's a good video of him denying it. Video of Zelensky saying that Bakhmut has fallen into Russian hands.
Mr. President, President Zelensky, is Bakhmut still in Ukraine's hands? The Russians say they've taken Bakhmut.
I think no.
Mr. President, President Zelensky, is Bakhmut still in Ukraine's hands? The Russians say they've taken Bakhmut.
I think no.
Mr. President, President Zelensky, is Bakhmut still in Ukraine's hands?
Does he mean no?
I think no. I think no. I think no.
I need it as a soundbite. I need it desperately as a soundbite. I think
I
no.
think no.
I think
no.
fam.
I can't. So one of the things that happens every time Russia comes through is that you get a slew of people who were kept there. It happened with Solidar. It's happening now with Bakhmut or Artyomosk, where people talk about their experiences with what happened and during the time of the Ukrainian occupation, because that's what to a lot of people it was, because they couldn't speak their own language, they were used for whatever mechanisms. There was a lot of abuse. We've seen the images all over the internet. So this one refugee spoke to RIA Novosti and told the reporter about their experience. And the translation isn't exactly the best, but basically, I can read it out loud as it's going. So they didn't want to evacuate to the Ukrainian controlled zone, who didn't consider them to be children, or their children are get human. Hold on, it's going a little fast for me to read it, Tim. If you rewind it a little bit. So they didn't want to evacuate, right? The Ukrainian controlled zone, because the Ukrainian army didn't consider them human, didn't consider their children human. So they didn't want to evacuate. But the Ukrainian army had let out a decree that said if they didn't evacuate, they would take their children away. And if they didn't show up to the specified city, they would never see their children, and their children would be taken. So that's what she's explaining. And she said she's there saying that's why the child would have been taken away. And we can press play. So the Ukrainian army arrived with this decree that was issued in Ukraine, stating that they had every right to take the child away from the parents, even without the parents or relatives accompanying the child. And if the parents did not agree, they would take the child away and deprive them of their parental rights. And there was no certainty. You can let it play. If you didn't go with the child, there was no certainty, maybe even if they went with the child, that they wouldn't have taken the kids away from their parents. So even they would have even snatched the kid from their parents. And so they were insulting them, basically. And they would tell them, you have 5 minutes to get ready, get up and leave, take your documents. And they were trying to basically run away with their children before they were taken away. And she says she didn't have time to go to her phone or get anything. And they were shown this decree, and he just showed it in front and had said that they had 5 minutes to get ready. I'm taking the child. If you're going, then if you're going, you don't go, you have a day to come. Basically, if they didn't go with them, they would lose their parental rights and not see their child. So again, that's what they accuse the Ukrainian army of doing, which I wanted to mention because one of the things that was mentioned all the time here was that, if you guys recall, they accused Vladimir Putin of taking children away from the people in the Donbass, right? And what was actually happening is that they were evacuating these children from the areas that were in danger of being hit. So that's one of the reasons why the ICC put an arrest warrant out on Putin, but they accused him of international war crimes. So this is exactly what we're talking about here, is the fact that these kids were being manipulated and used against their own will and their parents' own will to put these civilians in harm's way to go to the Ukrainian controlled centers where they could be controlled when they wanted to go elsewhere and leave elsewhere. So that's something that I think is important to point out, especially with the fact that all of this is being accused on Putin and on Russians, when if you actually go to these places in Donbass, the stories you hear are quite the opposite.
Начался обстрел, и они бежали в подвал. Ребенок побежал за котом.
So she's saying how there was shelling that began, and they grabbed the child as their parents were trying to leave. They dragged him into a car. A female neighbor came as she heard them screaming, and they told her that she should not interfere, otherwise she would be put down. And they told her to go screw herself, took the child and left. And they said to tell the parents that unless they arrived to Konstantinovka within a day, they would not see their child. Were they AFU servicemen? Yes. So just a testimony I thought was important to hear. And I think we kind of went over most of this already, but if
The
you
meat
would
grinder,
like
fam.
to, yeah, if you would like to read this article, I highly recommend it. It goes over the entire conflict, basically from the beginning to the end. Fam, if you scroll down to the very end, there's a couple of things I wanted to read. Just the very end. Ooh, I'm not going to be able to read that here. I'll pull it up here. Okay, let's see.
Fam, I got it nice and big for you.
Fam?
Right there, look.
Okay, so this, let's see if that's it, because I don't know if that's it. Okay, conclusions. If you go up a little bit more, just a couple. There you go. So, this is what Prigozhin said, and I just wanted to reiterate the importance of the Battle of Artyomosk. Again, it allowed Russia to grind down the Ukrainian reserves, forcing Kiev to focus on Artyomosk and to disrupt Ukrainians' offensive in other parts of the front, especially in the direction of Melitopol. And he said on October 8th, 2022, together with Army General Sergei Surovkin, it was decided to launch Operation Bakhmut Meat Grinder, an assault on the village of Bakhmut in order to provoke Vladimir Zelensky to throw in as many forces as possible to hold Bakhmut. In Bakhmut, we grinded the Ukrainian forces, hence the name Bakhmut Meat Grinder. And then he said, in any case, the more than 9-month-long battle for Artyomosk permanently changed the perception of the conflict, forcing both Ukraine and Russia to abandon any ideas of a fast-paced campaign or deep breakthroughs. Exactly. And only this only took place 30 kilometers deep into the front lines. So again, this is that was how it was. And now, of course, it's up to the Russian army whether they're going to advance when. We don't know exactly, likely soon, but it's going to, of course, happen west towards Slavyansk and also along the lines of Kryvyi Torets. And the Ukrainian positions in Severodonetsk also need to be dealt with in the northern flank. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a key hold, but they also mention how there's still forces that remain in the west of Artyomosk that are need to be dealt with by Russia, and these Ukrainian forces prevent Russia from having this needed stability along this important Donetsk-Donbass canal. So that's kind of what you're looking at. You're looking at Slavyansk to the west next. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a conflict that lasts a long time, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate because war is nasty. War is not something that is good for anybody. You know, this isn't something that needed to happen. I think that's the most enraging part of all of this. This didn't need to happen. And it's happening. And, you know, regardless of, and this is something, you know, I think Mark always points out, regardless of the fact that Russia has the upper hand, there are still Russian lives being lost. There are still dead Ukrainians that didn't want to fight in this conflict. There's still people that are in between that are victims of this entire thing that have no say in this. And I think that's what people forget when it comes to this. And what is really, to me, the issue with so many people in their attempt to be neutral is that they refuse to admit that, there is somebody here that is the aggressor. And if they would stop giving weapons to Ukraine, and if they would stop, funding Ukraine to the tune of billions of dollars, this conflict could end tomorrow, because Ukraine wouldn't be able to sustain this on their own. Not without the help of NATO. They wouldn't. So how do you end this conflict? You do that, but they won't. So you can't equate and say Russia is doing this or that without saying, okay, this funding needs to stop, because this is clearly, you have third parties involved here. This isn't Ukraine fighting Russia. This is NATO fighting Russia, because without NATO, Ukraine wouldn't be able to do it. They wouldn't have weapons. They wouldn't have ammunition. They wouldn't have money. So you can't treat this as something where you say, well, I'm neutral because this is, Russia is fighting. Well, it's like, well, but who is supplying these weapons for this fight to continue? Russia has said they would stop. They would lay down anything if the funding would stop. And that hasn't happened. So,
well, too many Americans are just too quiet about it, fam. That's why we're going out to the Make America Healthy Again rally. This May 27th over here this Saturday. The rally begins at 1 p.m. Pastor Jardula will be there with Gerald Celente, with Dennis Kucinich. Make America Healthy Again, meaning physically, spiritually, and patriotically. I think what it means to be patriotic is to stand up against fake wars, to stand up against the racket, to stand up. If you want to support the troops, support them by bringing them home and not fighting for fascist gains, meaning corporations, to rape other countries' resources or to.
Is that what it means?
Yeah. Well, patriotically, yeah. That's what we define patriotically as, you know what I'm saying? So an empowering event with lineups of renowned experts, fam. I don't know if I'm a renowned expert, but I'm going to go out there and give it my all and have a good time. It's at the Crown Garden, which is the Four Corners of Freedom on Crown and John Street in Kingston, New York. Kingston, New York is about 90 miles north of LaGuardia, 60 miles south of Albany. So if you're out in the New York area, come join Gerald Celente and his group of friends speaking at an anti-war rally. We're going to mainly focus on this particular war that's still going on. And like you said, fam, if one side would just stop right now, stop spending all this money, stop arming this one side, this wouldn't go on. This would stop tomorrow. It could stop tomorrow if we had the political will to fight and get it that way.
Yeah. I mean, it would.
That's it for today, fam.
I don't know. Okay. You want to save the other one for?
Yeah, we'll just do it another time. It was an interesting one. If we started on that one, we'd talk for an hour. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. You know where to help us out. You can always go over to Rockford and join up over there. We do have a Patreon. Thank you to all the Patreon people. And thank you to all the people who are that Gives and Go up. Not the Gives and Go, the GoFundMe. I'm sorry. We do have a GoFundMe if you want to go out there and check it out. Let me see what it's called again, fam. I forgot. It's Fund the Convo Couch Independent Work. I will put the tag up really quick inside the chat. Thank you to all who has donated, and that's really nice of you guys to do so. You can always help out the Convo Couch that way. I'm going to be putting it in the chat right now. Thank you to Jilly Love and everybody else who are holding it down. That's it for today. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
and me on those ones and twos, fam.
Come out. We'll see you guys Wednesday.
We'll see you soon. I might know I'm coming, fam. Coming.